I've been dreaming of doing this show for over 2 years now, and I specifically wanted to bring this work to Venice, because of its iconic beauty, but also because of its profound interface with water. This kind of phase shift between water and sky, that all of the clouds are also water, right? So there's just this cyclical motion constantly in nature between the way that water gathers, between the way that these molecules are gathering, and so they just gather a little bit differently in the sky than they do in water, and you've got this dynamical shift constantly all the time. And in Venice, it's so profound because, you're walking around and suddenly, like, you come out of a church and an hour ago there was no water there, but then you're like wading through water as you're going to your next spot, and there's a bridge that just got built so that people don't get their shoes wet, and like there's this constant negotiation and conversation between the city and the water. And I feel like that's very resonant in this work here, where there's a conversation and negotiation between how water moves in our world. My spiritual practice actually is the painting. It's all kind of revealed in the physicality of the work. And one of the things I love most about painting is the actual physical nature of it, is the standing, the walking, the doing, the making, the working with the hands. But my process is it actually is very playful, and it's about, particularly with this work with the storms, it's really an interface between the natural movement of paint as it flows down a canvas and almost dissolves, and the intersection between that and the control that as an artist you have to actually form it into something coherent. And so I'm trying to leave these passages where you can see that the paint kind of has a mind of its own, in the same way that nature has a flow of its own. And where the mind meets nature is kind of where I feel like I'm meeting the paint, where it's like I can create some kind of semblance of order, but really the paint is in charge. I want to dazzle and move you.
Good.
Yeah. To give people as like wondrous and exceptional an experience that I could possibly create. And I have also looked at a lot of classical, Old Master romantic landscapes, and the core element of romantic landscape is the notion of the sublime. Mm-hmm. And exploring that and its range for me has been so interesting, because again, it is the same prompt of having your soul on the line, because it's an ecstatic experience, it's a terrifying experience, you're in awe, and you are almost repelled. And so there's a kind of fear in it, but then it also wants you to come closer, and it draws you in because there's a fascination. And then there's also this like beautiful kind of clearing and release, but then you realize that you're in the tumble, and like so all of these contradictory forces can somehow be true. And so exhibiting in a church, in a place that is generally speaking reverent, contemplative, quiet, I think creating an offset of something that brings an enormous amount of energy into a single space and creates a really charged situation. Like I love the idea of a tunnel of this work in what is otherwise a sort of peaceful and contemplative space.